qualifier. But now, though, let's jump into the bottom right-hand corner of the map with the blue Zerg player from Team NV. This is DRG. Taking on the red Zerg in the top left corner of the map, it is Serral. Again, this is on the Korean server. This is the Korean server qualifier, so it's not fairest server or anything. This is all played on Korea, just as the European server qualifier later today will all be played on Europe. ZvZ, with a lot of ping, ain't gonna be easy, but there are styles you can play to make your life that much easier, right? And that, I think that's the most important thing, is that, I think that, the styles you can play, obviously, are still good in ZvZ. Like, they are punishable, and you can counter them a little bit too, so maybe you can't fully lean on them, but there is obviously just going, like, straight to roaches and stuff. And that's going to make your life a lot easier, like bypassing the Ling Bane phase. And I'm going to be kind of surprised if Serral doesn't play into that, because he played so much into that yesterday when he played against Beyond, obviously ZVT, but he really said, look, I'm just playing roaches because I'm not going to mess around with Ling Bane on the Korean server. And that's something that Beyond really countered quite well, and it'd be interesting if Serral wins this and plays Beyond again on the rematch to see exactly how that might go down. So, yeah, that's the one biggest weakness I would say, is that I think Serral really is likely here to tend towards a certain thing. And then, you know, that is something that DRG can maybe work against, maybe figure out, maybe set himself up for, you know, set himself to play, you know, set himself up in a good position to play against. That's what we're kind of thinking, expecting, and all of that kind of stuff here. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but it is possible. I mean, yeah, we used to have the Korean Zergs used to win. I mean, this was in a different age as well, but the Korean Zerg players used to win all of the time on the European server, like Hyun. Who was the other Korean Zerg that played, like, every tournament? There was someone else who played, like, every tournament, and they just, I feel like his name began with an R. I just can't quite remember. I'm gonna do a very quick Wikipedia search to try and find out. Yeah, there was a bunch of players that would play cross-server all of the time, and play on Europe and do well. Well, Sol used to play, actually, cross-server quite a bit, but I don't think it was him. There was another guy, I really can't remember his name. Maybe he didn't play on Europe as much, and I'm looking at some Europe results here. Yeah, maybe it was, oh, why can't I remember their name, though? If I heard their name, I'd be like, yes, that guy! And now, Twitch chat's gonna, like, name about 100 different Zerg players. I'm gonna be like, no, 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 not that guy. No, the other one. There's the Roach Rover from Serral coming up, though, as, yeah, my point was, obviously, it has been known in a different age, you know, you can play cross-server, you can win cross-server. There's just, and one of the big things, I think, though, is, like, being used to playing cross-server. And a lot of it's kind of funny, we had a question in the chat, like, why is Serral one of the only Europeans trying in the Korean server qualifier? You know, you see a lot of Koreans trying European server qualifiers, you know, when it's, you know, server qualifiers, or even the European Open Cups we've had some Koreans play on. And I would say that's just a tendency of Korean players have been more motivated to learn how to play with ping, because in the past there's always been a lot more tournaments on Europe, etc., that sometimes the Korean players wanted to be part of, even if it was on cross-server. So even though it was on cross-server, they were kind of interested in taking part and stuff, etc. So yeah, and there's always been a tendency of some players were just, like, absolute kings of playing cross-server. Like Keen. Keen was so good at playing cross-server. Keen and Alive, they played Europe like they were playing Korea. And there is a thing of, like, if you can, you know, get your brain to offset into this kind of mode of, like, oh, hey, like, you know, I'm going to be playing with this bit of delay, and yes, not everything's going to be perfect, but I can really account for it very well. You can play cross-server better than other people, and I think that's the problem for Europeans. There's never really been any enticing tournaments to play on Korea that they can't play on Europe already, and so they've never had the reason to learn to play cross-server a lot of the time, so I actually think that might come into it as well, but, I mean, I'm really going off tangent now. Lings did get in here for a little bit of damage, and DRG is setting up for a big Ling Roach attack. Serral is building a lot of roaches, and I think he's probably going to be able to defend this Ling Roach attack. It doesn't look like there's going to be... And DRG just lost an Overlord. Yeah, so DRG is going to be supply blocks. I actually don't think this will do much for DRG. He's building 5 Ovies. His Carapace finishes. Now he's got a bunch of units. Will he build more? He's going to build Ravagers. Will he build more units as well? Yes, he will. He will still not build Zerglings, so he is still going to try and commit through to making this work. So let's see how this will end up going as we begin ourselves up in this game. And this is where the action really will start to happen in the next little while, in the next few minutes here, as we have ourselves the Roach Ravager Ling. Well, plenty more Lings still building. Serral is the one attacking. I didn't think Serral was going to attack, but that's obviously not so hot, because attacking into the player that also wants to be aggressive, usually the defender's going to be the victor there. He actually just gets the Lings off for a counterattack too, so even better is that he can put his Lings to use while just defending with Roach Ravager. Sorry, I did not expect Serral to be the aggressor. Nice bios though. Serral gets rid of 2 Ravagers there, and that is massive. He even target fires down another one. Serral wins on top of the ramp. The bios go a long way to aiding. And honestly, the defense from Serral at home was pretty good too. He didn't actually take too much damage to those Lings, even though they got into the main base. And I think Serral's going to come out of this just A-okay, as he's going to take down an Overlord with those Corrosive Biles. Serral is going to be able to put himself into a good position here. Alright, just going to be seeing the Roach Ravager heading down to the bottom right corner of the map. So away we go, just obviously seeing the, I think DRG's in a little bit of an awkward spot where he just doesn't really have much anymore. Serral's even on his way to his +2 missiles and is still dominating the supply chain, as he's 99 to 64 in army, and obviously Corrosive Biles versus, well, 1 Corrosive Bile every now and then. Just not really the same. Serral can force so much more lost attacking time for DRG in these fights than what DRG can force of Serral. Another Bile or 2, but DRG does just about manage to keep dodging away. And Serral will come through to win this series. I'm getting ahead of myself. Win this game. 1-0 Serral on the ZvZ. In the bottom right-hand corner of the map, our Blue Zerg, who is going to be down a game, it is going to be DRG. And up against the Red Zerg in the top left corner of the map, it is Serral. Alright. What's gonna happen, guys? What we thinking? I think, kind of obvious what happened in game 1. Serral, honestly, I feel like Serral shouldn't have been in a winning position there. I feel like Serral really was the player that was not meant, you know, when you're the aggressor, you're meant to lose those kind of fights, right? So not losing those fights was kind of spectacular. And honestly, just not taking that much damage across the map was kind of cool too. DRG is going to play a gold base early, and I think what that would generally mean is he's probably going to play something like Ling Bane focused, because what a gold base early in the game does is you can hit the same economy as you usually would with less workers, which means you can hit into an all-in or just aggression in general so much faster than you usually would, and that can help you to overwhelm. And of course, all you need to do is trade evenly, and you're probably still mining more. So it does put the pressure on Serral. Obviously, the whole idea then is that Serral, to defend that, just needs to hold on a little while. The longer Serral holds on, the better it is, because obviously your gold base mines out very quickly, and when the gold base mines out, then you're going to have a base that's a little bit more exposed, a base that's more easily attacked into, you know, a base you have to expand from sooner, and that's where Serral can obviously maybe take an advantage from this. So a gold base opening from DRG, and Serral, he will know soon, because he will see no hatcher on the natural, and obviously immediate cause for concern. But because you're playing on a map that has a gold base, there is that little bit of a, well, maybe. And he sees that drone transferring too, so I think it's safe to say that Serral shouldn't be overreacting to this. I think he should be very well aware of what is going to happen. And like I say, I'm expecting him to probably play Roaches again here. Let's see how that goes for him if he decides to commit 2 Roaches right away. I mean, in theory, if you can just play Roaches off 2 bases, you can hold off against Ling Bane and any aggression that might come from this. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, DRG might not go Ling Bane. That's what usually happens, because you're expecting Ling Bane of your opponent. But if you know Serral's going to play Roaches, maybe you just play Ling Roach again. And you do that off of a boosted economy, and you see what can happen. Because again, Serral is less likely to pick early game skirmishes, Because early game skirmishes are when the ping is going to affect you big time, because it comes down to a lot of specific micro, and each micro mistake will affect you more because you've got less units on the map, so it's more influential when you make a micro error. So, yes, that's kind of what I'm thinking, just to kind of speak freely. And maybe kind of talk through the logic of what's going on. There's the Evo chamber from Serral. DRG will just take a third as well. So you can go up to 3 hatcheries here and obviously just have the gold-based economy backing him up for this as well. We're going to be continuing through. Just going to be getting set up. And the +1 missiles and the Roadtron. I mean, 0 surprises from Serral. If he really wanted to throw a curveball into this, he could perhaps, and I really mean perhaps because I'm not even too convinced about it, but maybe you could go like, oh, hey, let's do like a Spire and just make like a handful of meters. Like, you're not going to have to like be super good at micro because you're not fully reliant on them. It forces your opponent to maybe respond, and you can get some free damage, clean up overlords, and maybe use that to your advantage. I think that's going to be the biggest twist we're going to see from Serral, if we see one at all. I mean, DRG, you can just see income advantage with 5 to 7 less workers right now. So he is just rocking it. Now, Serral does get the early advantage. That peak initially is because these workers have to transfer to the gold base, which is a little bit far away. So helps offset things a little bit. And there is the Spire from Serral. So he will switch this up, but you can see it obviously is still going to be Roach focused. So the Spire is very much so going to be a, oh, hey, let's see if something can happen on the follow-up to this. He's not really, he's not really rallying for this to be a thing. Like, it's like 6, 8, 9 meters, that sort of range. Maybe if it's scouted, you make a few less. If it isn't scouted, you go up to 9 or 10. But it's not going to be much more than that unless you really see an opportunity here, I don't think. Because, obviously, continuing to build meters while you invest into Roach upgrades doesn't usually happen. Usually you would be switching into melee upgrades and playing Lings as a support, something that doesn't require gas of its own. So away we go. Could be an interesting little situation we have playing out here. Once again, Serral only just now taking that 3rd hatchery, and again, just a sign of, just a sign of how slow he is to get set up off of the 2 bases because of that just being his style. Ooh, Spire from DRG. So this is going to get really interesting because in theory, DRG could build Corruptors against the Mutas. And that would be the better way to go. But because it's only going to be a few meters then into Roaches again from Serral, I don't know if Corruptors are really something you want to build. I think you'd be better off actually building your own your own mutas and just saying, haha, I've got more, and now you're behind on the muta count, and that creates a weird scenario too. I mean, DRG knows about the Spire, so he can make his own choice against this. He's got his Spore Crawls going down. I actually think Corruptors might still be cool because they would create a bit of a timing for you. As these first mutas are going to jump on top of these Roaches already, and these Roaches are going to try and commit. Okay, well now you can't build Corruptors, because if you build Corruptors now, you've already lost so many Roaches. You're not going to have a Roach Corruptor timing. Yeah, it's just going to be mutas. And I think maybe mutas, like I said, made the most sense overall, because you're not playing against someone who is focusing solely on Mutalisks, so you will just take that Mutalisk advantage, and it just swings the tables into, Serral's decision. Hey, are you going to keep on building Roaches? Are you going to build more mutas? And are we going to end up playing muta versus muta? Obviously, in a world where muta versus muta is not exactly going to be Serral's best friend because of ping, etc. Interesting questions to ask. Serral has so many overlords around the map as well, by the way, and they are all going to be in trouble when these mutas pop out, as Serral realizes these mutas are here, and he's going to get pushed away from denying the gold base economy. And his first overlord started dying. You can see the recall of overlords. They're being brought back home, and they are being taken off the map. They are not allowed to be out there anymore because they are basically defect. Every overlord on the map is going to end up dying. It's going to break down. Serral took a pretty swift supply lead, and now Serral's the one building Corruptors. Oh, how interesting. He's going to counter the counter mutas with Corruptors. I kind of love it. It's ridiculous. It's one of those kind of really weird situations. As Serral counters in with the mutas down here. Loses one, gets a couple drones. Nice micro to pull that one to the back, of course, otherwise it was about to fly headfirst into the Spore Crawler there. Wow, I mean, genuinely kind of, genuinely just a very fun game so far. Now these mutas are being chased by other mutas. Like I said, the Corruptor's on the way, but you don't really want to lose these mutas because they can still help you against the other mutas. No, the slow zone! Oh, that's not good. So Serral may be losing track of those a little bit. Only loses one still and has queens to help out. And like I say, these corruptors coming up. So does Serral essentially play a roach corrupted timing now? Or how does this actually work? I still don't know if I know. You know what I mean? It's, wow, like I said, it's a very unique situation right now. Definitely not quite the norm. Let me just back down to the center. Those corruptors actually going to miss the Mutalisks, and they are going to see the Roach Ravager coming through. Serral has +2 already, so slight advantage there. Defensively with the Queens and Transfusions as well, I think he should be okay. Serral's Mutas trying to find some action. They actually find the Mutas of DRG. Again, his corruptors I actually think should be okay here. DRG has Ravagers though, and those Ravagers might make the difference as Serral has got the corruptors just not really in the right place to fight the Mutas. I mean, that doesn't really matter because the Mutas aren't here in the army at least. DRG just has more in here in general. The few Mutas of Serral are going to show up to try and make a difference themselves, and they will start to put some damage out, but I think DRG has maybe already done enough. There's just so many corruptors of Serral, and maybe he was expecting DRG to go even harder on the Mutas. Because if DRG, I know there's a lot of ifs and maybes, but if DRG expected Serral to make more Mutas in response, Serral expected DRG to keep making Mutas, but that's not what happened. So in the end, Serral's made all of these corruptors, and they've been nigh on useless. Like, when the Mutas didn't even join the fight, and he still run the Roach army, it should tell you just kind of how badly that went. Is Serral able to stabilize at all? What can he do with these corruptors? He could caustic spray down a base, he could kill a ton of overlords. There are some very minor uses, as we do see the corruptors here actually going to fight. A few of them just left behind to fight Mutas. The problem is the corruptors are just such dead weight after that, and yeah, killing overlords and stuff, there's only so much you can really do. That is GG, and DRG ties it up 1-1 in a bit of a... in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the blue Zerg who muted the Mutas. It is DRG. Top left, our red Zerg with the ping. It is Serral. Let's see what happens for game 3 then, as we just get set up initially. Some drones on the way, etc. And, yeah, just getting that ready to go. What's up, Zaubergarden? Thank you so much for the gifted sub out to Contractual. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your generosity. I'll gift a subscription here, as we do have Hatchery first once again on both sides. So, nothing really too surprising about the initial... Well, about that at least, right? I don't think that's too surprising to anybody, because, well... that happens all the time, so pretty standard at the moment. And I just have a gas, and then obviously soon to be a spawning pool to follow it up on both sides of the map. A little bit of difference in placement on the spawning pools, very minor, I think. Serral's is a bit more vulnerable. If there was something crazy like a 12-pool drone pool, the spines here are a bit more engageable onto that, whereas this spawn pool's a bit safer. The spawn pool's a bit weird because actually it doesn't really create... Like, I'm pretty sure a queen fits in here and still is able to be surrounded, whereas Serral's creates this smaller wall-off. Is that true? You select both of the hatcheries. You can see what I mean. Like, that just looks much smaller than that, and I think that means the queen would maybe not fully wall off there, which would be interesting. And it means if this did become aggressive, Ling Bane could maybe slip into this side of the base. Of the mineral line without being blocked right away and stuff. So, yeah, Serral's spawn pool makes a bit more of a wall. Why would DRG not do that? Maybe he's just not afraid of something like that. Or maybe he just doesn't see the value in it. Yeah, I'm not sure, because to me, I don't think there's ever really reason not to necessarily commit to something like that, you know? So, yeah. Alright, well, a couple of Lings are going to move out from Serral, and... obviously, everything is still mirrored so far, and Serral is even going to go Ling speed this time, so he's going to stop with the 2 base Roach openers for the moment. We'll see how long he keeps that up for then. See what he decides to do. Couple Lings going to get onto a hatchery down over here. As we get initially just ready to rock, and Otherwise, still not much else happening, just following these couple lings. Bane Nest is coming down as well, so again, interesting to see. Serral is kind of accepting his fate of maybe having to play some Ling Bane here on the Korean server. And you know, I don't hate it either, because I do think there's obviously a point at which you end up playing against DRG, and he's just going to keep on hard countering you, and at that point, you really do need to do something about it, right? Like, you can't just let this keep on going. So, definitely makes a little bit more sense to switch it up, even if it's maybe not optimal, because your micro might not be optimal. There's definitely a world in which it's still worthwhile doing, right? I definitely think we're seeing a little bit of that right now, so... Yeah, Eva Chamber right away. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be super aggressive with it. You can still play like a defensive Ling Bane opener. That also works. That's also completely fine. I would imagine that's actually kind of what we get at some point of this as well, so... Yeah, wouldn't imagine this turns out to be too aggressive. We do see that Roach Roar coming through here from Serral. And he's going to start +1 missiles. So like I say, they both go Ling Bane, but neither of them will really use Ling Bane at the end of all of this. There's more drones just coming through. Cool. Well, Serral and DRG. DRG is just a few more drones ahead. He's just got like a 6-worker lead that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Like, Serral does not seem to be catching up on those 6 workers at any point, which is very interesting. Ling's going to push that other Ling away. Serral's now caught back up on drones as the lair comes through. Honestly, at the end of it, it just feels like DRG just had that little bit of extra boosted income. Let's just build a few drones before Lings or something somewhere and just be a little bit more focused on economy while maybe Serral played a slightly safer setup. Very minor difference overall, I would say, though. As you see, the couple of Banes going to waddle along with the Zerglings as they leave through the top side of the map. So away they will go. And we do have that 4th hatchery of DRG already setting up at the front as well. The Zerglings coming through, going to go and jump onto this hatch. So hatchery will start to take some damage. And these few Zerglings in trouble. Ooh, a few drones do go down to some Banes. That's Serral just going to back this up. He's got Banes of his own, of course. As the Overlord's speed is going to be finishing shortly, obviously allowing him to move his Overlords a bit better. Maybe get some better scouting as well, of course, as just being able to recall them should mutas come up on a larger map like Romanticide. That's always going to be something of a possibility as Lings do go to the wall, which is walled off, and they will go down. But of course, we're kind of past the Ling phase. The Ling Bane phase of the game now, at least, so I wouldn't say they're too substantial, though a few more Lings come down to try and actually deny the 4th of Serral. Serral just morphed 2 more Banes up on that top side, so I think he should have the firepower to take this down, because obviously, if nothing else, the Banes at least scare you away from continuing to fight that 4th base. There's a couple of Banelings there from DRG. Serral, he sees them, and he will just deal with them with the roaches. I mean, a couple of Lings went down, but... yeah, I mean, as long as you've still got your Banelings here, you're able to defend the base, because the Banelings will just force the Lings off of it. They won't be able to stick on it for long enough. And DRG is indeed going to make a Spire, so we'll see what Serral wants to do this game, as he actually with those 4 Banes will just load up and set a Dropper Lord across the map. Hey, DRG will see that right away with the Lings if he's paying attention to it. He might not be. It's one of those scenarios where the Lings might have just ran by and he's busy doing something else before they get into position. So I was going to try and protect his Queen as the Lings actually do get Queen, and maybe a drone or two. Nope. The drone got into an extractor and got itself safe, as Serral is already building spores, by the way, so really is taking some precautions against Spire play. Did he see the Spire? Remember, he's got Overlord speed, so his scouting should be somewhat reasonable here, as he will force this mineral line off. Yeah, obviously Spore Crawler there means you do lose that pretty much right away, that Overlord, as the Overseer comes through. And what a scout. That'll be Spire seen just as the mutas are starting, so it does give you some time to prepare against this, as we're going to be seeing Serral going Tunneling Claws and Burrows, so he's really committed to the roaches. And that means he's probably going to be obviously not going to go into anything too crazy himself, just an infestation pit. So Queens, Spore Crawlers, probably Infestors. That's going to be the way in which we try and make this work out as Serral as these mutas of DRG. We'll get to the middle of the map, we'll take down an Overlord. Here, show up and already going to get in for a Ravager or two. And Queens are just a little bit out of position, and the Spore here not ready just yet. Remember, this fourth took a lot of damage earlier in the game, as Serral just cancels and rebuilds. What's the point of having to spawn such low HP, he says. Yeah, no, that fourth took a lot of damage earlier, so something to maybe keep in mind. If the mutas find their way back onto that for long enough, they could get a denial. It's definitely got some potential, as you do see the mutas taking down a couple of extractors. Huge Roach Ravager force still moving through the center of the map. Mutas back in, taking down one queen, going for the spore as well. I mean, DRG's just going to go for this, and Serral does not have the supply to really work with this at all. He spent a bit of money trying to get up into Infested to defend, although he's actually going to win against the Roach army. Wow, DRG just melted. Is Serral going to keep the hatch alive? A transfusion goes down. The queen's trying to put damage out. I think that's the last transfusion. The fourth base will go down. But DRG lost this fight. The Roach is on the ground. That was actually incredible. His army supply was way up, but the fight was obviously just not it. Down a carapace upgrade, etc. too. Okay, well, Serral on his way to Hydras. Again, this is always the situation against the mutas, right? Where it's like, okay, well, I've got the kind of the better fighting army, but because he's got mutas, he's going to have better economy and more bases than me. So DRG is set up well. Let's see what would happen. So see both these overlords going down. Not going to supply block DRG or anything. Not even going to take them off 200 supplies, so not a big issue. As across the map, a few roaches have dropped in, so Serral has a counterattack, and that's really nice, doing some counter damage, because obviously there's all well and good kind of being, you know, defending successfully, but being able to do a bit of your own is nice as well. He's got that Tunneling Close, so he can go elsewhere. As you do see the roaches of DRG going to the top side here, Serral will not have the best position right away, but beautiful fungal. It just adds a lot of damage over time and just offsets some of the disadvantage here initially, maybe due to the position. That is a lot of fungals on Roach Ravager, though, so Serral's really committing to winning heavily against this army specifically. If he then has to deal with the mutas, and the mutas can't be fungaled or dealt with, that might be problematic. So there are consequences to using your fungals to help win the Roach Roar, but it doesn't look like the mutas are going to end up being that successful. And DRG's in a weird spot now. He didn't really keep going mutas, so he's not got a big muta count. And he's up against an army which is very much so just better tech than his. So 8 mutas don't really make up for infestors on the map and potential to move into Hydras, as that tech's already been invested into as Serral. Very, very interested as to what might happen next as a few roaches continue to move here and there. Hydrogen coming up, Hive coming through. I mean, Hive obviously is going to be the next real attack here from DRG. Looks like we're going to get into Lurkers, so that's where Serral is heading to as well. He's just a little bit later to start the Hive, as both players get maxed out. Not really a bank on either side, although Serral has less workers, so his bank will build more slowly. Still like Serral's army a bit more, because these mutas just don't really do much. He loses 2. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm upset. Like, obviously it would be nice to trade them out for actually dealing damage, but I do think there's... I mean, the Knights are kind of shutting down some overlords to try and get some information across the map and stuff, but I genuinely don't think these mutas are going to make a difference in the fight. Serral has A, more army supply because of less workers, but B, more army supply in a fight, really, because those mutas might not add very much either. So Serral may be set up well to win a fight in the near future. Roach Ravager pulls back down to the bottom side. We do have an army still moving through the middle of the map as we get ready to go. A couple of vials, and roaches do have to back it up and split away. Those few roaches going to go straight through, and there's just a lot of roaches. The Spinecrawler doesn't defend this, right? The roaches do, though, and that's actually going to be nice that DRG is able to defend or get there to defend so quickly. Serral has a lot of energy on Infestors, and again, he has a better army because he's got some Hydras juice, he's got a bit of extra DPS. Finally, he finds the fungal he's been looking for, but it's difficult because he's got to dance with the corrosive bowels, and DRG has been pacing those well to last a long time. This roach fight didn't really go Serral's way either, but I don't think it really went DRG's way. Like, Serral still traded out for enough roaches that it was, a minimal effect on the overall pacing. What's important, obviously, for DRG is that he didn't lose any workers, and what's important for Serral is he didn't just lose those roaches completely for free. Move up the top side. The Queen's in some trouble. His transfusions available to keep them alive, though. Gonna keep them kicking for a little bit longer. Just a couple moments, but it's one of those weird moments as well where you had all these queens to deal with the mutas, and now it's like, well, actually losing a couple of queens might not be the end of the world. You still need queens to inject with, don't get me wrong, but He's got 3 queens, and he's got 4 bases, so he's only really missing 1. These roaches have taken a long time to be dealt with. He's stuck. The Changeling. Serral didn't realize the Changeling block. It wasn't... oh my god, it was an awesome play from DRG. As DRG kills the Lurker Den. Serral in trouble because now he doesn't have a Lurker Den. It's going to slow down... Don't lose the Hydra Den. That would be disastrous. It would slow down his Lurker upgrades a lot. He's got Seismic Spines, but he actually wasn't able to... Okay, he's got 7 Lurkers already. I lie. I thought he didn't have them. No adaptive talent still means it's going to be harder to use them than usual, though. Serral has snuck around the bottom side of the map, though. DRG out of position for this fight, as we are going to see Serral on top of this base, and with Hydras to boot, he might be able to... sorry, not Hydras, I was going to say Infestus to boot. He might be able to really control the pacing of this fight as well. That's a lot of Ravager Hydra here from DRG. Serral, I feel like, should have really been fighting this. Looked like he was very afraid to fight this. He's going to split, he's going to cross a file on the Lurkers. Fungal Growth still coming through because Serral is going to be able to find a fight to win. Like I say, Hydra Ravager, very flimsy army, and that's why I was worried that it was just Hydra Ravager. That's why I thought Serral should go. We were not wrong because Serral takes out that army, takes out that base. He's got a big Roach counterattack that ran through Lurkers to try and get through to the next part of the map, and they do take a lot of damage. They're still alive and kicking, but hurting big time, as these Lurkers will continue to hunt them down. The new Lurker Den is in the back here, though I'm not worried for that to actually fall. I think it will survive. Serral has lost 19 workers as it's just taken a long time to deal with these roaches. Roaches will go down. These other roaches will go down. That's the Lurker Den dead again, though, for Serral. As he fights this right-hand side hatchery, DRG... Well, DRG has a worker lead, but I don't know if he's got the bases to use those workers necessarily. It's a little bit weird in that regard, as reduced enough lurkers there to maybe hold him off. Serral needs to burrow his own lurkers right now. No adaptive talents. If he has adaptive talents, he gets some really good shots off there. And of course, just doesn't have it because his Lurker Den killed once, killed twice. Hasn't actually rebuilt it this time around. I hope he's realized that he doesn't have the Lurker Den. Otherwise, that'd be a problem, as he loses a gas on his 3rd base because he doesn't really respond to these mutas. He'll have to send something there soon because he is going to have roaches there as well. Oh my god, +3 missiles on a very low HP missile Evo chamber means that he's going to be behind in upgrades most likely. There's no way DRG lets that finish, right? He dies for it, or does he not? He doesn't. Oh my goodness. Can you believe +3 missiles is building on an Evo chamber with less than 50 HP, and it's actually going to get to live. Meanwhile, we do kind of dive through here. DRG is going to find an opening, get up this ramp. He's going to find Lurkers before they burrow again. The lack of adaptive talents is problematic. Serral drops the Blinding Cloud, so he can attack into the Lurkers, though. His Vipers will make some huge plays here. Backs away, though, afraid of the Roaches coming back down the ramp, and DRG taking a supply lead. Beautiful, beautiful Blinding Clouds, but I don't know if it's enough for Serral, as his Vipers are now out of energy. No more Blinding Clouds are left. The Fungals have faded away, and it looks like DRG is going to have the numbers necessary to take this down. GG and good luck, says Serral, as DRG just about able to make it work, as Serral just struggles to work his way around all of those positions, work his way around all of those bases defensively. That was very close, and I actually think the Lurker Den snipe was critical, because Serral, if he had adaptive talents, those Lurkers